Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Motorcyclist MC Commute. You guys know the deal. Today we're going to be riding to the motorcyclist office in Southern California on Indian Motorcycles 2020 Scout Bobber 20. Today's episode of MC Commute is brought to you by Roland Sands Design. On today's ride, I'm wearing the RSD Mojave leather boot, the denim textile jean, the punk rock race jacket, and the Rourke leather glove. If you want to know more about these products, please check the link in the description of this video. Now let's throw the helmet on and go for a ride. Here it is, guys, Indian's 2020 Scout Bobber 20. This particular model celebrates 100 years of Indian Scout. The original Indian Scout debuted for the 2020 model year. 100 years later, Indian's making this commemorative version. Compared to the standard Scout, this thing stands apart in its use of wire spoke wheels, that single seat, and the Pirelli MT 60 tires. I love the shape of the fuel tank. I love the silhouette of this bike. I love how the big honking 1133cc engine is on display here for all to see. But enough talking about it. Let's hop on it and go for a ride. Sounds pretty good, guys. What do you think? 69 cubic inches of power. Let's not turn gear and get going. Long and low. That's what Indian Motorcycles Scout Bobber 20 is all about. Right away, sitting on this motorcycle, well, the ergonomics feel like a typical cruiser, in which that the foot position is forward, the seat is a little bit back, and the handlebars are up high and in front of us. This bobber variation, although it looks really neat, the seat on it isn't the most comfortable. The dish on it's very nice, so it supports your rear end well, but it's so small, and while I appreciate the leather finish on it, it's rather slippery on your rear end with a pair of jeans on. So it's pretty easy to slip and slide back and forth in the seat. And yeah, there is a little bit of a dish there to support you and keep you in place, but it's not that deep. At least not deep enough with the power of this engine. I mean, you gotta remember, this thing puts out some serious power. Let's go right to the front of the line, guys. Front of the line. And away we go. Now, when Polaris bought Indian Motorcycles back in, I think, 2010, 2011, engineers went to work building this motorcycle, even though the Chieftain was the first to debut from that association. Engineers were working diligently on the Scout. They knew they wanted a entry-level cruiser that folks wouldn't outgrow. So they wanted to build a bike that would be novice rider friendly, yet not so novice rider friendly where after 3 months you outgrow it and want to get a bigger bike. So they came up with this platform. Fun fact for you guys, when they're actually trying to figure out what power plant to use, they built 3 custom motorcycles. One with a lightly modified engine, one with a heavily modified engine, and one with a liquid-cooled Rotax engine. And after some testing and some feedback from various people, they went with the water-cooled version. But instead of just sourcing a Rotax liquid-cooled V-twin, they made their own. So Indian made their own. 69 cubic inches, 1133 cc, 4-valve cylinder heads, water cooling. On the dyno, this bike puts out around 82 to 84 horsepower at the back tire. Also puts out about 63 foot-pound of torque at a relatively low 3,200 RPM. So compared to the competition in the class, this engine has some power to it, has a lot of power. Also sounds pretty cool too. Engine's also mated to a 6-speed gearbox, putting power back to the 16-inch wire spoke wheel via belt final drive. And I like the engine in this bike. That's one of the highlights of the motorcycle, is this engine. It's smooth, has good character, tons of power, sounds nice, doesn't shake excessively. The transmission ratios are a little bit taller, so you can have this thing running at 65 miles per hour and the engine's not winding out, not shaking your teeth out of your head. But man, that slippery seat, when you're giving this thing the beans, you're sliding back, you have to hold on, not nearly for dear life, but you definitely have to hold on with your arms so you don't go sliding off the back of this motorcycle. Might be wondering, what happens if I want to take a passenger with me? Well, Indian offers a very vast line of accessories, so you can customize and outfit the Scout Bobber 20 to the way you'd like. Love having this power. You can just pass people at will. It's great. Indian Motorcycles also did an important change for all Scout models for the 2020 model year. They get new brakes, updated braking components. But we'll talk more about that in a second. Finally, a turn. Doesn't have the most ground clearance, but it has some. God, this engine's so playful and fun to ride. So a single disc brake up front, single disc brake out back. ABS comes standard on this motorcycle. You probably heard it cycling a little bit. It's nice that ABS is fitted on this motorcycle, but its actual calibration is pretty rudimentary feeling. When you're applying the rear brake, it locks, then unlocks, and locks, and then unlocks, and it does it very slowly. Almost feels like this thing has 2008 spec ABS on it, but it's better than nothing. There we go, sliding off the back of the bike. But I'll take it because the engine's so playful and fun. So here's the Achilles heel in the Scout Bobber 20. The ride quality. Got almost 5 inches of suspension travel up front, but only 2 inches in the rear. And when you hit these bumps, you feel them. You feel every single one of them right through your spine. Of course, the name states Bobber. Bobber bikes have fixed rear suspension, at least they did in the old days. So it would make sense that this thing would ride so rough. But I mean, this is 2020 and all motorcycles should have decent rear suspension, and this thing has anything but decent rear suspension. Very uncomfortable. So the Scout Bobber 20 rides rough, yet it still has
pretty dang good handling. You lean this thing over in the corners, and even though it has that limited rear suspension travel and beats you up, the handling this thing is quite sharp. Doesn't feel flimsy and flappable. Feels like a solid piece of motorcycle machinery. Love this engine. So fun to ride. Speaking of the brakes, braking components are all new, and brakes have good, decent power, stopping power and feel. Of course, a twin disc setup on the front would be better, but the single system gets the job done. Clutch lever pulls a little bit heavy. It's not crazy heavy, but for a beginner bike, I mean, this is supposedly supposed to be orientated towards beginners and more experienced riders. It's got to hit that sweet spot, but it's got a little bit of, you're gonna need to have a little bit of muscle to be able to pull this lever. Still, the actual action of the clutch is nice. It engages nice and early, which I like. This 581-pound bike slices right through traffic. Not bad at all. Transmission has real positive throws. I like that you don't have to, I like that the shift lever doesn't have a long throw. You just tap on it and it goes into the next gear very securely. Overall, I'd rate the powertrain on this Indian motorcycle Scout Bobber 20 at a relatively high level. I really like, that's the shining point of this motorcycle, is its powertrain. And of course its looks. The thing's an absolute head turner. Talked a little bit about the ergonomics. Also forgot to mention that this Scout Bobber 20 comes equipped with this 10-inch tall mini-ape handlebar. So a little bit more of a, I don't want to say aggressive, but more of a muscular, mean stance. But it's not overdone. I actually like this handlebar. A full set of apes would just be totally insane overkill, but this mini 10-inch setup is actually real nice. Here we go, guys, another turn. These mirrors are a little bit goofy too. You kind of have to take your head away from the road to look at them, which probably isn't the safest thing. Now we're on the freeway. Cruising in top gear, 70 miles per hour. You feel a little bit of vibration through the controls, but not a lot. Definitely not excessive. Feeling that vibration through the controls is part of that V-twin experience, to be honest, and this thing's got it. Engine isn't vibrating enough to cloud the mirrors behind you, which is nice. On smooth pavement without any bumps, this thing rides quite well. No cruise control, no traction control, no adjustable ride modes. This is all natural riding experience. Though this Scout Bobber 20 does come equipped with ride-by-wire throttle control. So when you twist the throttle, it tells the servo on the throttle bodies to give the engine gas, and that's how the engine accelerates. Throttle response is real nice on this thing. It's crisp without being overly sensitive and not being sloppy either. So good job to Indian. Again, powertrain on this bike is the real highlight. The 2-inch suspension travel in the rear is not. Let's do a little passing practice, guys. Still not going fast enough. Oh, there we got some drag. So this thing still will drag the foot pegs at a modest lean angle, but it's better than other V-twin cruisers I've ridden. There we go again with that 69 cubic inch engine. Lots of power to pass people. Scoot up at the front of the line. First gear is a little bit short on this motorcycle, which isn't a bad thing. It helps it get off the line real well, to be honest with you. Love accelerating on this thing. So much fun. Instrumentation on this bike's pretty plain Jane. I like the swept face speedometer. There is no tachometer. There is a gear position indicator, which is nice. Coolant temp as well. But the actual font of that LCD readout is pretty old school. It feels like it was from 2005. I think Indian could have probably done a better job fitting a little bit higher quality instrumentation. Speaking of quality, that's really the only real hiccup I have with this bike, besides the slippery seat and the god-awful rear suspension travel. Build quality on this bike could be a little bit higher. Of course, I'm not saying it doesn't look beautiful in the sage brush paint, because it does. It's a very aesthetically pleasing motorcycle, but look at these wires hanging out from the control surface on the handlebar, and you look at some of the actual metal hardware on this bike. It just looks cheap, flimsy. There's orange peel on the paint. Other little bugaboo is the Indian branding. The logos everywhere. There's a logo there, a logo there, a logo there, a logo there. I get having branding and having logos and being proud of your equipment, but I think maybe this bike is a little bit overkill on that. Some of the fit and finish too on some of the fasteners, it just looks a little bit cheap to me. And this bike is not cheap. $12,000 is the starting price. This thing's right at $12,900, so this is not an inexpensive motorcycle. For that MSRP, I would expect a little bit higher build quality. Still, Indian Motorcycles stands behind their product with a 2-year warranty, which is better than other motorcycle manufacturers. So obviously, even though it may look a little bit cheesy, they're standing behind it. Alright guys, we're not going to do a wheelie here because this bike can't do a wheelie. We'll do a rolling burnout though. She does really good rolling burnouts. We can't back it in either, but we'll try. no back at it. Do one more rolling burnout just because they're fun. Love doing those things. Alright guys, we're here at the motorcyclist office. If you guys want to know more about Indian Scout Bobber 20, hop on to motorcyclistonline.com. There's a first look preview there. I'm sure there's some reviews too from the 2015 press introduction on the standard Scout. There she is, Indian's 2020 Scout Bobber 20. It's a mouthful. Looking at this bike though, God, it really is pretty. I love the engine. Look at all the cuts on the cylinder and cylinder heads. The shiny cylinder heads, the way everything's black, wire spoke wheels, that green flat paint. This is a really good looking motorcycle from afar. Let's fire up the Instagram machine and see what questions we got, guys. Alright, we don't have many today, but let's go from the top. Is the handlebar position better on this model versus the regular Scout Bobber? That was my only complaint with that model. Otherwise, it looked great. Ask Ken Norm 23. Great question, Ken. I haven't ridden this conventional Indian Scout Bobber. I've only ridden the conventional Indian Scout, and it's been probably 5 years since I rode that bike, 4 years, so I can't really answer that question. But this mini-ape 10-inch handlebar is pretty good. I like it. You know, it's aggressive, but not overly so. That would not be my complaint, the ergonomics. What would be, though, would be that seat. It's just too slippery. Way too slippery. It doesn't hold you in position. And this bike makes a lot of power, so you're going to be sliding backwards when you're giving her the beans. How does this bike do on the highway? Does it need a windscreen? Well, it's a cruiser, so these power cruiser type bikes don't do windscreens. It goes against the whole aesthetics of the motorcycle, so you wouldn't put a windscreen on this thing. As long as you're on smooth highway, this thing rides very well. But if you have any sort of bumps or undulation in the pavement, you are going to be hating life. That rear suspension beats you up. So if you're riding on smooth freeway, this bike does good. Bumpy roads, not so much. Can you order it with mid controls? That's a great question. I'm not exactly sure the answer. Again, I know Indian Motorcycles offers a whole line of accessories, air intake cleaners, pipes. They might offer mid controls, but looking at the bike right now, I don't see any place to put them. But please consult Indian Motorcycles accessory catalog and any aftermarket suppliers for that. I think a set of mid controls in this bike wouldn't be bad. I love mid controls. It feels more like a conventional motorcycle. Does it need a wider back tire? Asks Petrindona. I don't think so. I don't think it needs a wider tire, but it could use larger rims. This thing rolls on 16-inch hoops, and while that gives it a real favorable seat height, it does make it feel a little bit more of a smaller motorcycle, which again is good because you got to remember the seat height's only 27.4 inches. It's only 0.2 inches higher than Honda's Rebel, so very favorable seat height, very easy motorcycle to sit on if you're a new rider. But still, it would be nice if it had bigger wheels. It would give it more of a big bike experience. At the end of the day, would I buy this $12,900 Indian Scout Bobber 20? I really like the way it looks, especially in this paint job right now. This is a good looking motorcycle, but I don't think I would buy this motorcycle. It's just too one purpose for me. If I was just going to be cruising around the boulevard and cruising the block, yes, I would like to do it on this motorcycle, but if I'm going to be riding on the highway, on bumpy roads, in the canyons, bringing a friend, this motorcycle is just not going to be versatile enough for me, so I would personally pass on it. But if I was looking for a high performance cruiser that goes fast, makes a lot of noise, and looks really cool, absolutely, this Scout Bobber 20 would do it for me. Well, that's a wrap from this episode of MC Commute, guys. If you guys want to know more, please hop on to motorcyclistonline.com, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.